This is a district that not only includes the oldest Chinatown in the country, it includes a Japantown, it includes Manila Town, it includes Little Saigon. It also includes significant Korean and Samoan communities. I also want to take a moment and thank the Campaign for College Opportunity for recognizing the importance of diversity, of data, of research. They put out a report that shows what we know, that disparities among our API communities in higher educations are real, and that there are significant misconceptions that all Asian Americans are excelling in education. The model minority is a myth. We are not all the same. And while some Asian Americans have achieved success, so many face significant barriers that limit their opportunities. Just today, there were 2 reports that came out that gave 2 important statistics. First, APIs are the fastest growing population in our state. And then secondly, in the area of higher education, it's predicted that by the year 2030, there are going to be over 1 million workers that will be in demand that don't have college degrees. Put a different way, we are going to be short workers who have not been educated in our higher institutions. Now, you've already heard from Jesse a number of very disturbing findings, but let me just suggest a few. Asian Americans are more likely to be foreign-born and to struggle with English proficiency than others in their classroom. When Asian American data is disaggregated, we know that Vietnamese, Cambodian, Hmong, and Laotian American adults are less likely to hold college degrees than the average Californian. We also know that Hmong and Cambodian American children have the highest rates of poverty in our state, which is actually a higher rate than African American and Latino kids. We know that Native, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander students have lower graduation rates in our community colleges, in our UCs, and our CSUs, and those undergraduates are just as likely as African American students to enroll in for-profit colleges that have led to very bad educational outcomes. And we know that admission rates for Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander groups to the UC system have varied by 43%. Given that we are the fastest growing ethnic group in California, given that 87% of Asian Americans begin their college journey in a public educational institution, this is absolutely critical.
Southeast Asian communities now number over 2 million nationwide, with over 900,000 residing in California alone. California is also home to over 340,000 Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, second only to Hawaii. Yet after having made this country our home, many within our communities are drowning within a system that does not acknowledge our struggles and actively disempowers our communities. Southeast Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders are systematically rendered invisible in our country's outdated data systems that haven't caught up with the reality of our richly diverse community, where we are all lumped under the Asian American Pacific Islander umbrella, which consists of more than 67 different groups. Southeast Asian students have a high school dropout rate of 40%, compared to 12% for Asian Pacific Islander American students overall. Additionally, a recent report released, of course, by the Campaign for College Opportunity revealed that while 44% of Asian American communities hold a bachelor's degree, this is only true for 29% of Vietnamese, 16% of Cambodians, 13% of Hmong, 12% of Guamanian or Chamorro, 12% of Samoan, 10% of Laotian, 9% of Tongan, and 1.6% of Marshallese American communities. Further, Hmong, Cambodian, and Tongan Americans experience the highest poverty rates in California, with 42% for Hmong, 33% for Cambodian, 25% for Tongan communities. In addition, despite high levels of eligibility for health insurance, enrollment for Southeast Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander families in covered California was especially particularly low this year. AB 176's passage would have been instrumental in revealing chronic disparities with both higher education and healthcare access for all our communities. AB 176 would have provided California with the opportunity to blaze trails in serving communities that have been rendered invisible through our outdated data systems in the nation.
Policymakers and state leaders in California have to cease to lump Asian Americans into a monolithic whole. I think you will continue to hear this statement. And yet, absent a coordinating board in California collecting data, we are reliant upon our public systems of higher education to report data that reflects the disaggregated group findings. And then we need to use those findings to compel action across the state. State leaders must unite to ensure that all communities of color have access and succeed in California colleges and universities. We cannot import enough talent out of state or internationally to meet workforce demand. So as I said, this is a social and moral imperative, but this is also about the future workforce identity of our state and economic well-being. Bills like AB 176 have sought to address the disparities we've seen in the collection of data, and frankly, we were very dismayed by the veto of this pragmatic bill that would help us to prioritize state funding for ethnic groups that are often left behind. We think that moving forward, the state needs to prioritize a clear plan with goals for meeting the needs of future workforce that include ensuring that the populations we've just discussed, Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, are included, and that there are strategies for ensuring that they are accessing at greater numbers, that they are being retained in our public colleges and universities, and that they are completing at rates much higher than they are today.
And the response to the need was unanimous. It was a need to disaggregate the data when it comes to higher education and healthcare to truly see what our communities needed. We took what we heard in these public hearings back to our friends in the State Assembly. We asked Assemblymember Bonta to write up the bill. What we heard was amazing. The community doesn't want a handout from the state government. What the community wants is a level playing field. And we can't have a level playing field without knowing what it would take to make it even. Being a refugee to this country myself in Vietnam, I saw firsthand the issues that affect our refugee Southeast Asian community. The community struggles from a lot of things, but we can't figure out what those things are and how to help those that need the help without getting the information. We were thrilled when the Assembly passed AB 176. We were beyond ecstatic when the Senate unanimously passed AB 176. We were beyond disappointed when the governor vetoed AB 176. And as a governor's appointees to the commission, I took it a little personally. We wanted the governor to see how important this was to our community. We still want that.
We know if you can't measure a problem, you can't address it, and that's why we're united and standing with literally dozens of organizations around the state and saying that we need this data, we desperately need this data for the future, not just of our diverse communities, but for the future of our state.